even though there has been so much made of the youth's mental health issues, there was no one actually telling the story, right? Like what is affecting us? Like, why are we this way?
Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another enlightening episode of Mirror Talk Soulful Conversations. I'm Tobi, and as always, it's my joy to share this space with you all. Today, we will dive deep into overcoming unique mental threats in this modern age. Our guest is a sales and marketing professional who overcame personal struggles with anxiety, depression, and a near-death experience. He's the author of the book titled The Real Confident You. Welcome to the show, Pat. How are you doing?
It's an absolute honor to be here. First of all, I'm doing lovely. It is the holiday season as we record this right now, so nothing but holly jolly feelings in the heart, and it's a great day.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I mean, thanks so much for bringing up that topic, because I was going to ask you, like, off topic, like, how do you celebrate? This is, like you said already, this is like we're recording right now during the Christmas season. And for us in Germany, yeah, we have a lot of Christmas markets, and I enjoy just going to the Christmas market and eating wonderful things. How do you celebrate this kind of period? Like, what do you do to enjoy the Christmas season?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, as an American, as you know, we over-commercialize everything, so it involves significant amounts of spending money and buying gifts. My family's significantly better about that than most, which is great. So, but the biggest thing is really carving out time to spend with your family. You know, it's one of these times a year where we get to rest and reflect on the year and get to be with people we love, or, you know, members of our family maybe we don't like so much, but we do love. And the trouble of all that is just as fun and exciting as the warm hugs and everything else. I do practice in faith of Christianity, so this is a good time of year for me, just in my religious practice as well. You know, a good time to reflect on the blessings that at least I believe have come in my life. And so it's a beautiful time of year. And I am a Christmas music fiend, and so like even in the gym in the morning this week, it's been all Christmas music all the time, all Burl Ives and Bing Crosby and all sorts of stuff.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm also a Christian, and I take this time also of the year to reflect back and also thank God for, all the blessings. And one thing I love to do once I have time in the evening is to watch Christmas movies. Maybe not every evening, but maybe weekends, watch all these Hallmark movies, all the new, Christmas movies on Netflix or on Disney Plus or wherever, they are streaming right now. I just watch one.
What's your Mount Rushmore? What are your top 4 Christmas movies?
I mean, there's this recent one that came out of this. I can describe it, but I can't tell the title. The guy that was made of ice, and then, it became a real man, and he fell in love with a lady.
Jack Frost, I think is
I think so.
Yeah, with Michael Keaton. Yeah, great. Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah,
that's been like on my, because it's very nice. It has been like on my top. And watching Home Alone sometimes for me, it's like,
of course.
Yeah, it's like a classic, and I just love it. I can watch it over and over every Christmas. Have
you ever seen the videos of them describing like what would actually happen to people if the tricks that Kevin McAllister is pulling on these people would have actually, like the bowling ball coming down, like they would have died like 13 times trying to break into this house with the stuff this kid was doing to them. But it's a movie, so it's fun, and like they just fall on their butt. They go on good.
Yeah. I've not gone so deep into that, but yeah, I've seen like, different videos on it, analyzing the whole, tricks like played and all of that. And I even go down the rabbit hole of watching a lot of comedy kits about the same movies and, what people playing around the old tricks. And yeah, it's a fun time.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Yeah, it's a wonderful time of year. And yeah, I encourage everybody, just call someone you haven't talked to all year or in years. It's a good time. And people need to feel the love this time of year, right? Because they feel like so much is happening around them and maybe it's not happening for them. So make sure to spread some joy to others as well.
Yeah, that's a wonderful thing. Yeah, that's very important. Spread that joy, spread the love. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. So I would like to go back to you and focus on you. I'm so grateful that you're, on this episode of this podcast. And one thing that, drew my attention to basically was your story. And I got to find out that in 2020, you wrote an article about your suicide attempts, and I was like, oh, it would be nice if Pat could come on the show and maybe share this story with us, and maybe we could learn from it also. Would that be something you could do, like share this story?
Absolutely, yeah. So without getting into too much detail, I was a kid who really struggled with anxiety and depression, and it comes from a lot of the places that I think a lot of our youth are struggling. despite my bald head, I'm 27 years old, right? So I'm very much have a mirrored image of what most people in their 20s have gone through at this point. Social media really took over and adapted. When I was in high school, and those pressures on top of someone who already had anxiety and depression really took hold of me, right? And I was experiencing a lot of kind of dual personality disorder where I felt like I was being a fake person at school, or I had to live up to some social media version of myself that I just couldn't deal with anymore. So I had an injury of wrestling. I was a pretty competitive wrestler in high school, and they put me on pain medication, which if anybody knows anything about opioid pain medication, it really absolutely dives you down deeper in depression if you already have it. And I ended up attempting to take my own life when I was 16 years old. And it really was a wake up call for me that, okay, these challenges that you're having are really like existential to your life, right? When you come out of that kind of mental state, you need to do something about it. So I spent the next half decade of my life really working on myself and finding answers to questions that I needed answered, and understanding why I was the way I was and why I was feeling the way I was. And over the course of that half decade, I'd really turned my life around. I had taken a job at a Forbes top 5 hardest interviews to get out of college. I just finished an internship with 210 of the top sales talents in the United States, and I was #1 in metrics, and I had made really great friends, and I was really living like an authentic version of myself. I was, a producer on a radio station. I was having fun. I was living great, authentic friendships. I was just living out all my dreams and was the happiest I'd ever been in my life. And without the accolades, would have been as happy as I could ever be in my life. But I think I got those accolades because I was self-sustaining, right? And I just felt like I was living my final kind of lot, right? That the world didn't know that, hey, like when those kids that I went to high school with didn't know that I was struggling. And I really wasn't a great person. Depression doesn't make you like a good empathetic person. It really makes you turn inward on yourself. And I had treated people in ways that I was really unproud of. And so I wrote this article really telling my story. And I wrote it specifically to that audience of the people that I grew up with, just to let them know, what I had been through, but that I was on the other side of it. And, I just wanted to say thank you and sorry and all the kind of things that you want to say in a situation like that. But in order to do that, I didn't want to have that conversation 600 times with 600 people. So I just wrote it down and put it on Medium, which is a blog site, and then put it on Facebook just so that people I knew would see it. And it went about as viral as the written word could go in the modern context. And it got shared everywhere. And I got this outpouring of messages. Like, there was the typical that you would expect, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that this was happening to you, which is not the point of the article, but a surprising amount of it's, me too. I'm going through this too.
Yeah.
And like a jarring amount, where my phone was like a nonstop vibrating machine for days on end of just Instagram and Facebook, and my text messages just blowing up from people I knew from high school or from elementary school or college, or a bunch of people that I'd never met before in my entire life. And there was one message among those people that I realized I had left out of the article, which is, how did you get better? I'm in this place right now. What did you do to get better? And so I grappled with that for a long time. I answered those people individually and tried to talk to as many of them as possible. I still keep in touch with a lot of those people from when that article came out in 2020. And so that led me to write the book that I wrote, The Real Confident You, Advice from a 20-something Suicide Survivor, which is, it's a complicated process to get better. And there's a constellation of things affecting all of us. And I think you first need to learn what's affecting you. But then also, how do you get better? How do you get in touch with who you are as a real person? And a lot of fundamental things we're just not teaching kids in schools or adults, right? And so it's been a really wonderful and transformative journey in its own right. And I feel really lucky that I've gotten the privilege to talk about this stuff to so many people and get a message of hope out that there is a better way to live, and we can all live a happier life.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I really appreciate the fact that you're taking your experience and you're using it to help other people out there. Like I was going through the sample of your book, and I saw your story there, and I was like, going through the story, I was like, oh, maybe not in the exact way or concept or the way it happened to you, but like very relatable, situations, very relatable things that happen, maybe in a different form, in a different version that I could see myself in also. So I mean, I'm really grateful that you open enough to share it, and also to share with the world and help people out there to change their lives, or to even get connected. That's more important, like getting connected to their real self again, getting connected to their authentic self. Yeah. if I may ask, the suicidal attempt that you had, was it related to the near-death experience that you had, or are there like two different separate things entirely?
I would say it's hard to say, right? Because I think it's so hard to pin down when someone gets down into that kind of zone, right?
Mm.
How detached from yourself you really are. But I think certainly, well, the best answer I can give you is a constant, like a multitude of factors. But it certainly was my real self reflecting on the fake self that I was living. Right.
Oh yeah. Okay. And how did if you look back, if you reflect, because on this show we love to pause and take a break and then reflect on life, basically. So if you could reflect back on the journey you've been through and where you are right now, how did the needed experience, the coming out of the suicidal attempt or suicidal thought, dealing with depression, anxiety, how did that phase of your life shape who you are today? Like, how did it change your perspective on life? How did it change the way you deal with your mental well-being today also?
Yeah, I think a lot of things. I think first of all, it gave me a sense of empathy that I feel really lucky for. I outwardly presented like a golden child, right? I was doing great in school. I was an athlete. I was one of the popular kids, all that stuff the high school kid dreams of, right? Like I was
Okay.
living that life. I was cool.
Yeah.
And so for me to be that, and then really in the background, what's going on is one of the most depressed, anxious people you ever met in your life. It gives you a good understanding of how people work in general, that you're not the only person that operates that way, but pretty much everyone operates that way, right? Like we all kind of have multiple personas that we're putting on at all time, whether we like to admit it or not. And I feel really lucky to have gained that sense of empathy from this experience. And it gives me a lot more patience in my day-to-day life with folks than I think I would have otherwise. I'm still working on it. I'm not the most patient man on planet Earth, that's for sure. But at least it gives me a North Star to look towards. Right. I think the other thing it has done is for me at least, it's made me approach how I interact with the world, specifically like just watching the news or seeing how people operate in life in a different way too, because I almost feel like I'm able to see through folks better because I can see like, oh, this person is, and I think that part of that too is, working in a career that's sales oriented, but I can tell when I'm being lied to, I think a little better than most because I was such a proficient liar myself. And so being on the other side of that, it's much better. But I also think in the time since, the things that I was so ungrateful for in the time are the things that I'm the most grateful for now. Like when I look at, I moved around a lot as a kid and lost friends every 3 years because we'd be picking up and moving, and it felt like the most devastating thing on planet Earth. The counter side of that is I could talk to anybody because I had to pick up and make new friends every 3 years, right? I could walk into a bar, a church, a synagogue, a grocery store, wherever you want to go,
Mm.
and I can make a friend, right? It's a skill that I have. I can talk to people. And so I would never have that skill without the things that I thought were so detrimental to me at the time. And having that understanding makes the difficult parts of life now much easier because I know there's going to be a reward on the end.
Yeah. I mean, you just sharing that right now just, was making me think. I mean, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but your experience of, living kind of environment and leaving your friends, having to make new friends, maybe helped you to become a successful sales and
It
marketing professional
100% did.
today.
It's
Because
no, it is. It is
yeah.
100% the reason why I do what I do for a living. It's why I'm good at what I do for a living because I went through really tough experiences as a kid. The
Yeah.
toughest things in my life became legitimately the reason that I'm a successful adult.
Yeah. I believe that.
Yeah.
So if you look at your journey of, dealing with the anxiety and depression, I would just like to know, I mean, for listeners out there too who are going through something similar, is there an end to it? Is there a point in your life where it's all over and everything's history? Like you think and say, 10 years ago was the last time I felt anxious or had this anxiety or felt depressed because I've been able to do the work and now I'm
Yeah.
healed and it's over. Is that possible?
I don't think it's ever possible to not feel anxious or sad or have grief. I actually think and this is part of my religious upbringing, but I think if you believe that existence is a gift, then sadness is a gift and grief is a gift and all that stuff is a gift because it's part of existing, right? That being said, yes, I don't think there's ever an end for anybody, whether they have a mental illness or they're just struggling with something right now, of feeling anxious or depressed. What creating a better sense of yourself does and a better image of yourself and becoming more resilient does is it makes it so that those things don't overcome you, right? You're like, oh, I've been here before. I can sit in this sadness. I understand what it is. I understand what it means for my life. I'm going to understand what this is. I'm going to learn from it and move on. But yes, if anybody offers you a solution that says, I'm never going to be sad again, you're never going to feel anxious again, like that potential, that's at worst a cult leader and at best a snake oil salesman. Either way, they're lying to you. You're going to have negative emotions in your life. It's about how we interact with them that is most important for us to live happy and fruitful lives.
I believe that too. I mean, that's also relieving, because sometimes maybe down the line of one's healing journey, and you start feeling maybe anxious again, or the anxiety starts to creep in, you'll be thinking, I mean, a lot of people think,
I'm failing.
Exactly, I'm failing, I'm relapsing, for example. But it's very good to know that, it's always going to come, but the progress you've made in life is going to be reflected in the way you handle those situations, basically.
Exactly.
The way you are able to deal with it. Yeah. So I'd just like to know, there are some people who claim that they've never experienced anxiety or depression. And then there are people like that have experienced anxiety and depression. If you could, from your own perspective, could look at it, having the privilege to experience all of this, did it change the way you approach challenges in life, the way you see difficulties in life?
It does. Yeah, it completely does. I think there's this book by Miyamoto Musashi, who was like this samurai in ancient Japan, and he was an interesting character because you think samurai, like he was like the greatest warrior of his time, but he was also really good at painting and working on pottery and riding horses and all sorts of stuff. And he said something along the lines of like, if you can see it in one thing, you can see it in all things. Basically, the skill of mastering one thing makes it easier to master anything, because learning to mastery itself is a skill, whether it's mastery of learning how to build Legos or it's mastery of thermodynamics. Either way, you have to learn the skill of how do I, Tobi, how do I, Pat, learn how to master something? What parts of me do I need to understand to get the best version of myself to master something? And so coming on the other, anytime you pull yourself out of something, you're inherently going to come away with it with a bunch of lessons about yourself that are going to help you in whatever you do, right?
Yeah.
And so, absolutely. And for people who maybe haven't admitted that they're feeling feelings of anxiety or depression, or someone who hasn't been through that, you're certainly going to go through periods in your life in which unless you're a sociopath, that you feel like deep guilt or deep grief or deep anxiety. Those are human emotions that you're going to feel. If you don't have those emotions, you should also see a therapist, because you might have sociopathic tendencies. But everybody goes through things, right? We all have ups and downs in our existence. And if you're not learning something from the way back up from that down, you're missing something fun.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, that's how life is made of, right? I mean, ups and downs, roller coaster, basically. The whole fun of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And earlier you talked about the tools. I'm trying to ask this right now before I forget. I think you talked about the tools that we could maybe make use of. I mean, you said that indirectly when you were talking earlier. So I'd just like to know, like for myself and for listeners out there, are there like some tools that you made use of in your journey to help you overcome suicidal thoughts, that helps you overcome depression and anxiety? Can you share some of these tools with us?
Yeah, and I'll tell you something too. It's like nothing that reinvented the wheel, for sure, right? But reflection on gratitude, deep breathing and meditation, resetting my relationship with consumption, whether that's consumption of content on my phone, consumption of food, consumption of drugs and alcohol, whatever those consumption cycles are, resetting those relationships and tools that I use to figure that out, right? Journaling, nothing is, I don't think anybody should be, what's the word I'm like? I don't think anybody should be over specific about a mental health procedure, because I think it's all going to be different for every person.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of like the swimmer's body fallacy?
Yeah, I've read about it, yes.
Okay. I think that applies to mental health as well, right? And for those who've never heard of it, it's the idea that, people watch the Olympics every 4 years. It's just in Paris, right? And you're watching the Olympics and you see a great swimmer on the screen and you think, I want to have a great body, so I'm going to swim like that guy. Well, that guy does not have a great body because he swam, has a great body, therefore he swims. The first time he popped in a pool when he was 4 years old, he was probably the best swimmer in his little local region, and now he's an Olympian, right? And so we often confuse selection criteria with results, right? And so for things that you're looking for And if you're looking for things to help grasp at straws on your mental health journey, you should look at things that you're already inclined to be good at, right? And we all have things that we're good at. If you play video games, then find something that's interactive and interesting. I would specifically go to the BARC learning methods. It's like visual, auditory. If you like listening to books, then you should probably listen to podcasts. If you like reading, then you should probably read books about it. If you like drawing, then you should go to some sort of therapeutic thing that you're going to do something with your hands. It's hard to get overly prescriptive about this stuff because everything doesn't work for everyone. Really, it's about finding things that you enjoy and that allow you to get in touch with yourself and understand what you're doing. I would say the most insidious thing, though, is these devices we keep in our pockets at all times, because they interrupt those patterns of us being able to have conversations with ourselves, right? We're constantly trying to find ways to distract ourselves. And the way in which we're distracting ourselves is like the most distorted view of reality we could possibly have, right? People living smiley, happy lives, but they're not actually living those smiley, happy lives. But we don't interpret that right way, right? When we see the beautiful couple smiling with the dog and having a lovely weekend, they're in Martha's Vineyard and they're on a yacht. We don't know that they fought all night. We just see the happy picture, right? And so we immediately feel less about ourselves, and we're doing that all night and avoiding the opportunity to have conversations with ourselves.
Yeah, that's very true. You touched the point, or talked about the point right now. I mean, the social media and everything that we do and use our phones to do, basically, they numb us a lot, as in we run to them because it's the easiest way for us to numb or distract ourselves, like you say. And I think that's also like in my own opinion, I would like to hear your opinion on this. I think that's the most significant or the biggest mental health threat that we have, basically, in this day and age.
It is, yeah. I mean, Jonathan Haidt did great work on this. And if anybody is just plainly interested in the subject of how social media has affected folks, he's two great books. One is called The Anxious Generation, is one called The Coddling of the American Mind. Both of these books are basically about how social media has affected our youth. And if you look at statistics about mental health in young people and the cases of depression, and you literally can track it to the day that Instagram ends up on everybody's smartphones, you see these insane upticks in mental health outcomes, like terrible mental health outcomes. So if there's, the only consistency in all of these numbers going up is social media. The thing that I suggest to people is to reset the relationship somehow. So I encourage two things. First of which is like we control our own algorithms. Normally they let, the algorithm come to us, but go in the first 20 posts on your social media and analyze how each one of those things is making you feel or what kind of value it's presenting to your life. And if it's something that's damning to your life, or it's like, God, this is a habit that I wouldn't want to keep, like watching this kind of stuff, then every one of these apps, whether it's TikTok, Facebook, or, whatever it is, just hit the I'm not interested in this button. And those kind of things will stop showing up in your algorithm. You do that every, once a day, every couple of weeks. You'll have an algorithm that's a lot more fruitful in your life.
Mm.
Second thing is, I think everybody, just like an addiction, because these are that, studies show that these things are as addictive as heroin or cocaine, is to take a detox from it. Whether it's 24 hours, I do 2 weeks every quarter, but 24 hours is typically good for people, just so that like delete the apps off your phone. Don't give yourself the opportunity to do so. Pick a day that you'd be on social media a lot, like a Sunday that you're going to be lounging around, and see how many times during the day that you reach for your phone and put your finger in the app where it is without even thinking about it, because it's going to surprise you. And when we reset our relationship right down and we just become present about it, right? I think we all become so not present about our usage of social media. If you can't stand in a line waiting for coffee without looking at your phone, maybe it's time to reset your relationship, because you're just pouring anxiety in your body, at least stress.
That's true. I mean, of course, I agree to stress. Basically, I see a lot of stress.
Yeah. It's so much stress.
It's
unnecessary stress.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I've not made this. I think it's a challenge for me also to maybe go on 2 weeks detox. Basically, I've not tried that yet. But one thing I've tried is like going maybe almost a full day, but not deleting the apps, but just going offline totally, like airplane mode, no signal, nothing. And I think the first 10 times I tried it off, period of times I tried it, I always reach out for my phone and then pick it up. I'm like, okay, no, I can't switch off airplane mode. I have to just drop it back. And craving just to connect back with the virtual world basically was a big challenge for me. And gradually, right now too, I just try to just go offline and don't care about, okay, there's a message I'm expecting, I have to reply to this message, I have to be up to date on some posts.
I'm so scared I'm gonna miss something. There's so much FOMO associated with it, right?
Exactly, the FOMO. Yeah. And sometimes the excuse I give myself is I work basically on my phone. Like posting things and working basically. So I would like to ask you that, like, for people who have the same excuse like me and say, okay, I have to
The
post things
work
on my
excuse.
phone. It's like the
Yeah.
work excuse that I have to, like, reply to stuff. What do we do to detox when, social media is on the way to?
Okay. So number one, Toby, I would say let's go directly me to you right now.
Yeah.
Do you plan out your social media posts? Like, do you have a social media calendar? You should, right? You
Yes.
do.
Yes.
You
Yeah. I
do.
do. Yeah.
So you're planning these posts way ahead of time, right? 2,
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks ahead of time.
Yeah.
So you could have hypothetically all these posts uploaded for 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
for the whole 2 weeks without you touching the phone, right?
Yeah. Then I'll come to you and tell you, okay, my excuse is sometimes I don't have the time to sit down and post for the whole 2 weeks in advance. So I try to do it.
Yeah. But don't make excuses for yourself, all that stuff. But I would say the other thing is too, like, if you need it necessary for work,
Mm.
create some time for yourself to check in on a laptop. Like, if you really need to check in your DMs once a day, like, make the friction to get there harder, but make it still available, right? Like, open up Instagram on your laptop. I promise the DM feature still works. I've checked. Open up TikTok on your laptop, open up Facebook or whatever, LinkedIn, whatever the method of use is for you that's actual fruitful to your business. Create a space that you'll do that, right? I'd hope you're not responding to everybody that's in your DMs every 15 minutes, unless, I don't know, you're trying to find a wife, and then more power to you. But create a separate space for it and just reduce the friction. Like, you can still check in without it being, in the supercomputer that just happens to be in your pocket.
Oh, that's a good tip. Yeah, yeah. I'm going to try to use that also myself.
Should be.
Of course, I do this from time to time, but that excuse keeps on coming. I'm like, okay, maybe I have to go back on my phone
Shoot a
and check
message
it.
and maybe try it. And you know what? From 1 day to 2 weeks is a really big jump. Try 2 days, right?
Yeah.
See how 2 days feels. Then wait a couple weeks. Well, let's try 3.
Yeah.
I bet I could do 3 today. And then shoot me a message. Let me know how it goes. If you have any struggles, I'll help you.
Awesome. I'll do that. Maybe this Christmas period will be the best time to do that.
Christmas would be the perfect time to do that. Yeah. And I mean, if you're really worried about your DMs or whatever's going on your social media on Christmas, I get that the captive audience is probably looking at their phone quite a bit. So I get that might be difficult. But, the 23rd, 24th, 25th, enjoy some time with your family, man. Come on.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
your phone's
true.
not that important.
It's not that important. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for that. That's good. I mean, I'm so surprised or so happy to hear that from you because you're a sales and marketing professional, and I believe, correct me also if I'm wrong, the best way to reach people is basically through their phones, basically.
Yeah,
and
100%.
And now I'm going to switch off my phones, and you'll be able to reach me.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? Like, you as a sales and marketing person, how do you deal with the major device that you make use of to reach out to people being the same thing that's threatening people's mental health?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things about it. One is you leave the things that are productive in your life when you take those breaks, right? So, like, there is no email in your life that you need to answer at 6 p.m., truly. And so deleting those things after I'm done at work at the end of the day is something that I'll do, right? It's like, all right, I'll re-download in the morning. I know my username and password, but then it's not, those notifications are flooding into my eyeballs at night. So I don't feel the need to respond to it, right? And I think it is a strange dichotomy, especially as more people create. It is something that I struggle with all the time. And I don't know if I have a great answer for you, because the best way to reach people on this topic is through social media. But at the same time, I'm saying, like, this thing is the devil. So it is a hard dichotomy to play. Yeah. But that's why, I don't advocate for anybody for it to just leave their lives and go run in the woods. It's about taking a break, right? Yeah. And we all take vacations from work. You should probably take vacations from social media too.
Sure. Yeah, I like that. Taking breaks from our phones or social media, whatever we are consuming, is that a way for us to also recalibrate our brains? Or are there like other ways we could do it?
Yeah, because number one, it just reduces your total level of stimulation, which we all need to do, right? We're just overstimulated human beings. It's funny, I heard Jerry Seinfeld talk about this. He was talking about meditation specifically, but he was like, the only time that a modern human takes time to rest and have nothing going on is when they go to sleep. He's like, but then look at your bed. Does that look restful when you wake up? Does that look like you had deep rest? For me, it doesn't, right? There's blankets everywhere. There's the pillow. I don't know where it ended up, right? And so taking moments in our lives to like remove the stimulation actually gives you, first of all, it does a couple of things. One, it increases your attention span, right? We all have really decreased attention spans from just scrolling all day. So it increases your attention span. It makes gratification a lot easier, right? So things that don't gratify you will provide you gratification because you're not just getting a slow drip of dopamine in your brain all day from social media. So going to the gym will be more interesting. Going out on dates, hanging out with your wife or your husband or your dog or your kids or whatever it is, you'll find more enjoyment out of all those things because we're not just getting this IV drip of like almost good enough, but not good enough dopamine in our brain all day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we actually need that, right? Because from my own understanding too, we overwork the brain basically almost 24 hours
completely.
a day, and and taking those breaks
Looking at
helps us.
a slot machine of, what's the next interesting thing,
Yeah. Especially with TikTok, you just keep on scrolling and it's
Keep scrolling.
endless.
Keep scrolling. What's another thing I found too is all the apps now have adopted that feature. I was on LinkedIn like 2 weeks ago and a video popped up and it was actually like something pertaining to work. But then immediately my thumb just did the swipe thing and another video came up and I was like, why did I was like, that was a natural reaction for my body. I didn't choose to do that. Like that was my subconscious doing that. I was like, ooh, time for another break, buddy. Like maybe time to chill out.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I miss those days where when you're scrolling up through your feed, it gets to the point where it says you've gotten to the end of
You've gotten to the end. You've gotten to the end.
Yeah. But nowadays it's endless, basically.
There is no end. There is no end. Yeah, Twitter, now X, right? People don't even look at the people they're following anymore. They just go to the For You page and it's just an endless feed of algorithm nonsense. Yeah, I have a buddy who loves Twitter, now X, so much. I think he's going to change it back. So I refuse to get rid of the name Twitter. I'm going to keep it alive. But he will preload when he goes on a flight and is about to be on airplane mode. He will scroll as much as possible before he gets on the plane. So he has a preloaded Twitter feed to go through.
Oh, yeah.
So when the internet turns off, and this is not a suggestion for anyone listening to this is psychotic behavior, but so he has hours of Twitter to scroll through while he's on the plane. That's insanity. Like, that's crazy. It's crazy. But again, there's endless amounts of content that you could engage in if you wanted to.
I mean, you mentioned that I was just putting some ideas in my head, but you said it's psychotic, so I won't do it. Maybe I'll not do it.
Yeah. Listen. Planes are tough. Do what you want. I think planes are a free zone. I think anything committed in the air is not real. So you're good. Do what you want with your life.
Thanks for that. Totally. So I'd like us to switch to your book a little bit. And talk about the real confident you. Can you share about the book a little bit for listeners out there? And tell us the motivation. I mean, I already know the inspiration behind the book. I know why you wrote it, but for people out there who have not gotten the message, what's the message you want them to get from reading the book? And what was the inspiration behind it, actually? Also.
Yeah, I would say going back to that article, right? There was just so many people looking for how do I get better? And what I had realized is in my own journey is that even though there has been so much made of the youth's mental health issues, there was no one actually telling the story. Right. What is affecting us? Why are we this way? And it's not like some old man on the porch yelling these kids today. There's real things going on. So the first motivation was I just wanted to explain that. And for a lot of people, they don't know why it's happening to them. Right. So I wanted to explain to them specifically, hey, these are the things that are affecting, social media or food or, whatever it is. These are the things that are probably some leading indicators, some inputs in your life that society has told you is normal, but is certainly causing you some mental health issues. And so that in the upfront, I wanted to get that message out to people. The second and third thing, and which is why I have the book built into 3 parts, and that first part is just the inputs, right? These are the things that you're engaging with that are making any nascent things worse, right? This is how you reset your relationship with the world such that you're not making whatever you have worse, right? This is how we don't grow the tumor. This is how we make sure the tumor stays the same size. And then the next couple chapters, the second one being about doing the work. All right, now that we know the tumor is the same size it is, how do we get rid of it? How do we shrink the size of it? And then the third one being, okay, now we have no tumor. What kind of life do we want to live? Right? How can we help other people? How can we live in an existence beyond ourselves? How do we become people who don't fear failure and take risks and be all the aspirational things that we wanted to be now that we have done the work on ourselves? And so, really, I wrote this book as the book that I always wanted to read, Yeah. And so it's in my voice. It's me talking to the reader. People say it's pretty funny. which is the best compliment you could give me about reading the book. I've tried to make it light and humorous, and I know the topic is really tough. And so I make it also pretty clear in the upfront that I'm not anybody's guru. And so I'm pretty open and honest about my flaws and how in all chapters of this book, it's stuff that I'm still failing at constantly, right? I'm not the best version of anything that I'm talking about. And so, and I talk about what those failures are like and how I'm trying to get better every single day. And so anybody that says that they're perfect and they're a guru, watch out for those folks.
Yeah.
Because there is no such thing as a perfect human being. But this book really just was written as like, okay, if I was 16 and someone handed me the book that I wanted, I would want it to be exactly like this.
I mean, like I said earlier, from even your story in the book, I don't know. I mean, talk about the shape of your body parts, for example, and all of that. Like, oh wow, okay, this is one. Yeah, I was like smiling at some point. I was like, okay.
Yeah, we have fun with it.
Yeah. I one point in one chapter in the book that caught my attention to is the chapter, I think chapter 10, where you talked about upon the house that ego built. Okay, that's a lot of time, it has a deep theme basically, like burning everything that your ego might have built up, because that could be the roadblock to you becoming who you're meant to be, you becoming your authentic self, because you're putting, I think ego sometimes build some walls around us to protect us from growing also in life. Yeah.
And we like to think about ego in like the egotistical way, like the macho, like I have a big confidence or cockiness kind of way, but our ego also breaks us down in a lot of ways too. And so the entire chapter is really just about, how do I separate myself from the inauthentic version of myself? How do I capture authenticity? That was one of my favorite chapters to write. For sure.
So good.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much. I mean, I've taken a lot of your time and I've really enjoyed speaking with you. And I know there are a lot of people out there who will still have more questions to ask, maybe also want to get the book. So what's the best way to connect with you? What's the best way to work with you?
Absolutely. So first of all, if you have any questions about your mental health just in general, or you need someone to talk to right now, my email is therealconfidentyou@gmail.com. Just reach out. I'm not going to try to sell you a plan or anything. If you have any questions, I'm really responsive on there. I try to respond within 6 to 8 hours of someone sending me a message on there if I'm not taking a detox. So I might be taking a detox when you email me. Just know that I am going to respond to you. So if you have any questions, just reach out there. You can find me on Instagram at Pat Broe. That's probably the easiest social media to find me on, or on LinkedIn. Just search the name Patrick Broe. You'll find my bald head. You'll see me. I'll be the first one that pops up, I promise. The Real Confident You is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And we have purposely made the ebook version of this book 99 cents because we don't want price to be inhibitive to anybody trying to get this information. So if you're struggling with money right now, basically the $1 pays for it. The publishing fees. I make, I think, -1 cent every time you buy one of those. So get the ebook if you're struggling with money right now, or even email me. I might just send you over the PDF copy if you really need the information. And Tobi, it was an absolute pleasure to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you so much, Pat. I really enjoyed speaking with you and, learning so much about mental health from you, and you sharing your story too. And your book also with the world is a big blessing. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. I much appreciate you.
Hey there, podcast enthusiasts. Are you ready to add a little sparkle to your day? If you're loving the insightful conversations and captivating stories on Mirror Talk Podcast, here's a friendly nudge to hit that subscribe button. By subscribing, you'll never miss out on the empowering messages and thought-provoking discussions we bring to your ears. But wait, there's more. We're all about spreading positivity and inspiration, and you can be a part of it too. How? By sharing the love with your friends and family. Share this episode with your loved ones, and let's create a ripple effect of empowerment and growth together. And hey, if you've been enjoying what you hear, why not take a moment to leave us a glowing 5-star review? Your feedback fuels our passion to keep delivering content that resonates with you. So hit that subscribe button, share the love, and leave us a review. Let's keep the conversation going and spread the Mirror Talk magic far and wide. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, your support means the world to us.